Hi, this is Matthew Robert Payne. I've got plenty of books on Amazon under my name, Matthew Robert Payne, and I've got plenty of videos here on YouTube. I want to share just a simple video. Maybe you haven't considered this before, but there's a famous line, and famous lines are sometimes called cliches, and there's a famous line called divide and conquer. And, armies use it, governments use it, powerful people use it. If you can divide people, you can control them and then you can conquer them. And a whole lot of people feel that there's strategists, and there's certainly strategists in the world, and there's people like the Freemasons, and there's people who practice witchcraft, and there's people who, control the Masonic order and basically fund and supply governments with men and women to control societies. But behind all of it, you've got God and you've got Lucifer, who used to be the head of worship in heaven and works against God. And Lucifer has divided our populations in the world. He's divided people through race, through culture, through sexuality, through male and female, through politics, and through sports, through religion. There's a whole different ways, whole lot of different ways Satan divides people. You know, they say not to bring up sex, religion, and politics at the dinner table. That it's not polite company to be having a conversation around the dinner table about politics, sex, or religion, but they're the three most exciting subjects. I don't know many. I don't know many families that discuss sex over the dinner table, but that would be certainly a dinner table discussion I'd like to be part of. But I want to share with you like a personal story out of my life that I can give you an illustration of something. So I want to talk a little bit about politics here today. I was going to a church that I really liked, and the church used to open at 5:30 on a Saturday. I cope with a lot of depression. I've had a lot of chronic depression in my life, and I used to sleep in, and it was hard for me to get up in time for a church service at 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, which most churches have a church service at 9 o'clock on a Sunday. But I came across a church that a friend introduced me to that used to open at 5:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. Well, I used to sleep into 11 or 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon because I stayed up late and I had problems with my sleep and depression. But I could definitely be up by 3 or 4 o'clock and catch a train into my church and be at church at 5:30. I've always had addictions and always had a lack of money. So it was really good because my church provided a free meal and dessert every Friday. So I used to budget for meals 6 days a week, but I used to only eat one day, one time a day, the evening meal, and so I used to. You wouldn't think so because I'm obese. You wouldn't think that I only ate one meal a day. But I used to go there at 5:30, and at 5:30 they used to serve a meal to people, and most of the people who ate the meal were homeless people or really poor people that used to come in and have a meal before church. And the church service used to go from 5:30 to 6:30. uh, uh, the meal went from 5:30 to 6:30. Church service used to go from 6:30 to 7:30, and after the church service there was a dessert and coffee and tea and soft drink. So the homeless people mainly like to be out of the cold, and they liked the free meal, and a lot of them didn't mind the church, but most of them stayed up in the seats at the dinner tables at the back of the church, and just some of them just talked through the service, but were respectful and quiet. And I loved that church. It was a beautiful church, and the pastors who originally started the church, one of them was a male Salvation Army church. One of them was a father, and he started a church on a Friday night because he ran a youth hostel and for troubled youth, addicted youth, and he wanted a nice, safe place for them to be on a Friday night instead of out on the town and drinking. And so he started a church service for them. Well, his wife ran the Salvation Army service and fed homeless people downstairs 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. And they used to come up for church on a Friday night and then go home for the weekend and start again on a Monday. But I loved this church and the culture of the church. There were such beautiful people in the church. Uh, I liked the normal people in the church, the people in the church that had jobs, but I couldn't really make friends with those people. They didn't really accept me. So my friends, sadly, in the church were the homeless people, and I lived in a home, but I could relate to homeless people because I'd been homeless in the past. And the church was taken over by another pastor, which was a young guy, 31, 32. But I really loved his heart. I really loved his culture. He's a very loving person. My addiction, I had a sex addiction. If my addiction ever caused me to be short of $20 or $50 for food, I could be quite confident that I could ask him for $50 for a lend for 4 or 5 days and pay him back. And I'd be confident that I could tell him why I was short because I'd slept with a prostitute and I was short of money. And I could be confident I could tell him that and he'd give me the $50 and I'd pay him back. But I never had to do that, touch wood. I've never had to borrow money because of my addiction. But he was such a beautiful pastor. He just didn't judge me. He knew I had a sex addiction. He knew that I struggled with that. He knew I struggled with pornography. And but he loved me. He loved me for who I am. He loved me. He allowed me to preach in his church a few times, and he always was asked me about the books that I'd written and asked me if I'd published a book. And whenever I published a book and I had a copy of the book, he'd take a photo of me and the book, and he'd make a big deal every time I published a book. So he was a really loving, kind pastor. Our church had, talking 15 years ago had transsexuals in the church, too, that men dressing as women but accepted and embraced as women. And it was wonderful. Had two lesbian, had a lesbian couple that that got married, and the pastor went to the wedding. The pastor didn't marry him, but pastor Mitch went to the wedding, and one of them got impregnated by in vitro fertilization, and they're going to have a child together. And I was really religious back in those days, and I didn't really agree with two lesbians getting married, and I certainly didn't agree with a child being born in a lesbian family. But I was very religious back those days, and I wasn't as loving as I am now, and my whole point of view has changed. But this was a really beautiful pastor running a church like that. In the church, they had a time of sharing called Care and Share, and it was like a if you've ever been to an AA meeting, I've been to a drug addicts drug addicts anonymous meeting with a friend one time. But if you've ever been to an AA meeting, it's like an AA meeting. They'd sing half an hour of or 20 minutes of worship songs, Christian songs. Then we'd have a time of care and share where you could just come forward and grab the microphone and share what you've been doing this week, and any good thing that God had done for you this week, or any good news. And you come, and they just had an open mic, and you just come to the front and share, and it would go for as long as people kept on sharing. They wouldn't shut it down. So sometimes it went for 20 minutes, sometimes it went for 45 minutes, and everyone got their chance. And that's where I really practiced preaching. I practiced speaking in public because I had a real fear of public speaking. And it was just a beautiful church. And my pastor, I share in my Christian teachings that I share in my Christian teachings that uh, you can have a really good relationship with Jesus. And I have got an extremely good relationship with him. I've seen him hundreds of times in visions. I've visited Jesus in heaven. I know of a lot of the people in the Bible. I've met and talked to him in heaven. I've got a really supernatural relationship. But no matter how good your relationship is with Jesus, I sort of teach, and I share that no matter how close you are supernaturally, speaking to Jesus telepathically from spirit to spirit, everyone needs a human touchstone. People make an altar at the house, and they have a statue or some precious stones or whatever, and they burn incense and put little sacrifices on the altar. That's like a touchstone. It's not God. They realize that the statue isn't Buddha. They realize that the statue of the God isn't actual God. It's something they can touch and make a connection with that spiritual God that they believe in. And the same is true for Christianity, although not many Christians would admit it. But to fully understand the character of Jesus, even if you can talk to him back and forth like I can, you need a human who's like a living Jesus to you. And that's who Mitch was to me, this pastor of this church. He was the living Jesus. He really is a dear and sweet and beautiful person. And when Trump was coming in 2015 and 2016, I was everything on Trump's side. I just love Trump. My favorite videos were talking about Trump. I read two Trump books. I listened to everything Trump. And as Trump started to do his his meetings, and he travelled and did his rallies. I used to listen to every rallies. I've listened to over 100 hours of Trump speaking and listened to anyone interviewed, anyone talking about him. I was just so Trump. And I remember around those years on Facebook, if you disagreed about Trump, I just used to block people. Like I got to a stage where all my friends were Trump supporters, and I become part of the Trump cult. And I was so fascinated, so in love with Trump. It was my favorite subject. And of course, I didn't have a job. All I did was write books and make videos. I had a lot of time to invest in looking at everything Trump. And I was so enthusiastic. I talked to everyone. He was part of my conversation. Whenever I had a conversation, I couldn't understand Mitch. He wasn't into Trump. He didn't really approve of Trump. If I asked him his opinion, he was polite. He knew I was enthusiastic, so he wasn't rude and disrespectful to me. But he made me know without clearly stating it, and being disparaging or saying the insults of Trump, because he's very respectful. You don't have transsexuals happily putting their hands in the air and worshipping God if you're a rude and disrespectful person. And so he knew I really loved Trump, so he didn't really say any things that the media used to say about Trump. He wasn't disrespectful to me, and he respected my friendship, and he wasn't going to jump all over someone love and opinions. And I asked him why he wasn't into Trump. He says, I'm more of to be honest, I'm more of a Bernie supporter. And if Bernie had have got on the Democrat ticket, I would have supported him if I was in America. And in Australia, we can't vote in the American election, but he made it clear. And all I knew was Bernie was a socialist. It's like being like a communist. And I couldn't understand how could a Christian, how could such a beautiful Christian pastor be willing to pay for a social, like vote for a socialist? Like, doesn't he know communism is not of God? And doesn't he know, like, what doesn't he know? And I didn't have enough time to do a deep dive or research into Bernie, but it did teach me something. It showed me something that you might not be aware of as a Christian. And I hope you've been enjoying what I'm saying, because I used all this story to get to this point. Mitch is a tremendously beautiful guy. I see Mitch once or twice a year, and he'll drive out to my place, and he'll spend about 3 hours just to see me for an hour, traveling to my place and back and spending time at a pub. He'll come to a pub and allow me to have a pub meal and a couple of beers. He doesn't drink as a Salvation Army officer, but he doesn't mind me having a drink. There's no judgment in Mitch. I could tell him I've been raping girls, and he wouldn't approve, and he'd probably try and stop me from doing it. But I'm confident I could tell anything. I've never raped girls, but I'm confident I could tell him anything, and he'd love me. He may not approve, but he wouldn't stop loving me. He'd actually love me more. And so I realized something with Mitch, that there are good-hearted Christians in America, good-hearted left-leaning voters, good-hearted people who vote left, who are Christians, who believe in the same Jesus Christ as me, as the same God as me, but may believe in more of a socialist Jesus than a conservative Jesus. And that's when I come to realize that Satan had divided the church in politically, that it divided Christians. But you may not realize it. I'm not sure if any of you have got a Mitch in your life, but Mitch is such a beautiful, loving person. He is a representation of Jesus Christ. That if Mitch believed in the Democratic Party, if Mitch believed in Bernie Sanders, you better believe it. There must have been something very good about Bernie Sanders. And I don't know anything about him except that he was cheated out of the Democrat ticket by Hillary Clinton and some unfair practices. But I respect Mitch enough that Mitch isn't an idiot. And this brings me to my broader point. It's just Satan that causes division. He's got us all fighting. You know, I look at the schisms in politics, in the right. I don't look at Australian TV. I don't even play my TV. I just mainly listen to YouTube. But I've been watching politics and I watch American politics and I love the political right in America. There's three people that there's three people that I really admire in the right that I watch a lot of. I watch Nick Fuentes. I watch Tucker Carlson, and I used to watch Candace Owens quite a lot until she started doing a show every single day about Charlie Kirk's murder, and it got a bit much after a month. And now she's almost been going on for a year, and I'm really convinced it's not so much about Charlie anymore. It's all more about money. But I really love Candace too. And Nick Fuentes has had an interview with Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson gave him a really fair interview and really platformed Nick. And I was really happy for Tucker Carlson to do that. And then within a few days, Nick was saying bad things about Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson was saying bad things about Nick. And I really love Candace, and Candace had Nick in to be interviewed, and it was a really combative sort of interview. And Nick and Candace went at it for a while, and it seems that Nick Fuentes has respect for Candace, but it's like friendly fire. It's like this friendly warfare. I don't know if he'll ever do another interview with her again. But then there's Ben Shapiro and other people who support Zionism and Christian right who support Israel, and there's the people who neocons who actually support wars and support going to war and support Israel, and then there's the Nick Fuentes and the Candace Owens and the Tucker Carlson who don't support war and entering into wars for Israel. They don't support that in any way. And so there's a split in the right, and there's a lot of people who follow Nick and a lot of people who follow Tucker and Candace. Candace has got one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and they've got a lot of supporters on their side. There's a lot of people who listen to them. So there's splits on the right, and even in the left. I like the Young Turks and another Maddie Hussein, or someone who runs YouTube channels at Teo. I really like him. So I like commentators on the left too. And Anna Kasparian is really great, and the Young Turks and St. Yuga. I watched that, and there's another YouTube channel called Breaking Point. I think they lean left too, and so I've come to realise that there's beautiful, good-hearted, intelligent, smart people on the left, and there's beautiful, good-hearted, intelligent, smart people on the right, and it's just a game. This two-party system that the Illuminati and the Masons have cooked up. They have an agenda for society to make us all poor and make us all work heaps and have all our women working and no stay-at-home mothers and no mothers having babies, and they just want to destroy the household. And there's this shadowy figures behind everything running the strings, and they're puppeteers, and they pulled the strings of these puppets. And there's a politician on the right that wins an election. There's a politician on the left that wins an election. The politician on the right that wins an election. And they don't care who's in, the right or the left. They're the puppeteers. They're pulling the strings. And all the politicians that get a following are led by them and run by them. And it's divide and conquer. They've got everyone busy, too busy, arguing over politics on one side or the left, that they just continue on with their satanic evil agenda for the world. And the politicians on the right and the politicians on the left keep furthering their agenda. No one seems to stand up and say enough is enough. No one has unity. There's no unity in the public because they've got the public divided. And sometimes it might go 8 or 12 years on the left with a left president, and then it may go 8 to 12 years on the right, or just 4 years. But they have control. And the Masonic Lodge have got all sorts of signs like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. And there's all sorts of Masonic secret signs. And, I was watching a guy showing pop stars and politicians and popular preachers all throwing up these signs to say, I'm part of the Masons. And I was watching this channel for a few months, and it's amazing how many people who are popular in our society willingly, they have to do, as part of being part of the Masons, they have to do this sign. And Trump is always doing. Well, I watched this guy, and I knew about 10 of the signs, about 8 to 10 of the signs. And then I did a compilation video of Trump showing the whole 10 signs. Like, it does it so regularly. One of them's sitting down and making a symbol of upside down pyramid. And whenever Trump is interviewed when he's ever meeting a dignitary in the White House, and there's a press gathering with the two dignitaries together, Trump is always sitting in his seat with that sign, like peacefully resting his hand, but showing everyone I'm on the Mason side. And the Christian church really believed Trump was their Messiah. And I'm convinced that's why he didn't get in 2020, not because he didn't get the votes, but because God didn't want him as part. God had become an idol in the Christian's heart. So I believe, I believe that there's good-hearted, kind, loving, generous, compassionate people in every religion. I believe there's truth in every religion. I believe every religion goes to heaven. I've seen every religion in heaven. On my YouTube channel yesterday, if you're watching this in the last week, I did an interview with Buddha in heaven, and the video is called "The Kingdom Age Buddha," and you can look it up. So you'd be surprised that the fact that heaven has got unity and there's a whole lot of different faiths in heaven, and you'd be surprised to know you don't have to accept Jesus into your heart and be a Christian to go to heaven. In fact, if the truth be told, recently over the last 3 years, especially in the last 6 months, a lot of Christians have been kicked out of heaven because they were bringing disunity to heaven, and they were judgmental and critical. And the faiths in heaven that are growing the fastest are the atheists and the witches are really progressing really well in heaven. So politics is a delusion. Politics, the political parties, an illusion, and the Masons. Not all Masons know they're serving Satan, but the higher up Masons, the ones that are in charge, basically control both political parties. You can't be a high level successful musician unless you get involved with Masonic witchcraft. You can't be a high level businessman without having your business taken by a Mason. You can't be a success in sports in any high level without involving yourself in witchcraft. You can't, you can hardly be a success in this world without bowing your knee to Satan. And Satan's game is divide and conquer, and that's why there's so much division in the world. The best thing you can do for a gay person, if you know a lesbian or you're homosexual and they're a friend of yours and you get married, don't think you're being a good Christian witness by not going to their wedding. They're inviting you to the happiest day in their life. Put away your religious ideals and your religious judgments and go to your friend's wedding. Don't be ashamed of your friend. God loves everyone. So I really, I don't watch Nick Fuentes every day, but there's everyone's got good and bad. Like Nick will go on a rant about women and how women shouldn't have jobs and shouldn't vote and women are stupid. And I don't agree with his opinions on women, and I don't agree with all of his opinions. And I believe there's a term called rage bait. I believe he says things that will have his videos clipped and make the clipped videos go viral. I think he's consistently saying outrageous things to attract eyeballs and attract attention. I think Candace says some pretty crazy things too. And Tucker says some things that upset people. His idea recently of, maybe starting a third party is like a fool's errand, and no one ever succeeds in a third party. But everyone is a beautiful person down underneath And if they're not a beautiful person, if the high level witches and high level masons and high level Illuminati, if they're one of the most wicked people in the world and responsible for a lot of starvation and famine and drugs and all sorts of bad things that people get into, one thing I know is true. They were all born innocent. They were all beautiful babies. They were all innocent at some stage. They were beautiful, pure and innocent. And it's only what happened to them since they were a child that made them into who they are. And does God hate them and despise them when they start choosing evil ways, or does God love them throughout? You got to ask yourself that question, because I found some of the most evil people in the world are Christians. Jesus gave me a scenario years ago. If a guy grew up in a good Christian household with a good loving Christian family, and one day a bully knocked him out at school, and then he went and trained himself in martial arts and became a bully himself, started knocking people out. And you had another guy who grew up with an alcoholic, abusive father who used to drink all the time and be angry and beat his mother up. And from time to time, the child, as he got older, used to step in for his mother and defend his mother and get beaten up by his father till he got old enough to fight back and hit his father and stop his father from hitting his mother. If he became a bully, which guy is the worst guy? The guy who grew up in a Christian family with love and support and only once got knocked out by a bully and then went and professionally trained himself to become a bully himself, or the guy who lived a whole life of violence and didn't know any better and just become like his father? It's the Christian guy. And in this world, the Christians have become the evil people. And for that, and their judgment, and their pointing the fingers, and their flattery, and their condescending, rude, judgmental, despicable ways, they'll find themselves not really welcome in heaven, many of them. And you may not believe that. You may think I'm a total fool and I've already admitted, to having a sex addiction in the past and having a pornography problem in the future. I've admitted that I'm obese. I'll also admit it to you that I've got a mental illness. There's plenty of reasons to reject me. There's plenty of reasons to say this guy's just a fool. And I don't mind you saying that. I'll say that in a comment, and I'd love to see your reaction. But I just want to share with you that, Anna Keirsey is a wonderful person. I love her. I love Maddie Hassan, who runs the Teo. So they're two people on the left. I like to watch their videos, and Breaking Point, I love to watch their videos. And I like Nick Fuentes, and I especially like Tucker Carlson, and I like Candace Owens. And you don't always have to agree on everything a person says, and you don't have to agree on all their behaviour. I don't know if there's any perfect person in the world. And Yeah, but my pastor Mitch is pretty perfect. And I really used to appreciate Mitch because he'd preach sermons, but he'd always use an illustration. He'd use a story out of his own life to explain the point he was making, and he'd always throw himself under the bus. He'd always accuse himself and share times where he'd failed in that actual thing that he's teaching on. So he's very relatable, he's very lovable, and I really love Mitch. And, the Democrats can't really be too bad if Mitch loves them, and they can't really be wrong. And you may think that communism and socialism are really evil, but we all believe in a world like Imagine, John Lennon's song. We all believe that Jesus is going to rule on earth, and earth is going to be like heaven. And in heaven, there's no money. Everything's free. Clothes, food, housing, internet, everything's free. So if heaven really came to earth and earth operated like heaven, you'd have free education, free music, free clothes, free phones, free houses. Everything would be free. And really, that's where the real story is, because it's only because of man's love for money that things cost money on earth. It's only because of these bankers and rich businessmen that run the world that keep us paying for oil. So many times people have invented free electricity and free cars and cars that run on water and stuff. And the patents and the inventions just can't get off the ground because there's too many people making money. I don't get much on my feed on Facebook, but there's so many natural ingredients that solve cancer and solve dementia and solve all sorts of problems. But you never get to know it because it's blocked by the pharmaceutical companies. People, they love, people quote this scripture all the time and they quote it wrong. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Right? So people say money is the root of all evil. No, the love of money is the root of not all evil, but all kinds of evil. In other words, if it doesn't say the love of money is the root of all evil, it doesn't say the love of money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. So there's types of evil that aren't motivated by money, like molesting your daughter or going to a prostitute. That's lust. That's not money, and actually costs you money to see a prostitute. So, it's man's insatiable love of money that stops the world from being free and entering into paradise. But people running after money and liking having money, loving the power that comes from money, that causes our world to be so evil and so shut down and so sad and so terrible. But the more I've talked to God, and I've talked to him between 300 and 400 times in videos over the last 3 years on playlists on my channel, I've come to realize that he loves gays, he loves witches, he loves Buddhists, he loves atheists, he loves prostitutes, he loves Hindus, Muslims, and really the only religion that he's quite angry with is Christians, because they're the ones that point the finger at everyone else. I was so proud of Mitch, seeing a picture of Mitch at these gay girls, lesbian couples wedding. He's in the wedding photos. I was so proud of him. I didn't approve so much of their wedding. I didn't approve of them having a child, but that was about 6 years ago. I've changed a lot since. But I was proud that they called me friend. One time we had a message at the church, like a sermon, and they said to come forward for prayer. If you need prayer in that area, if you've got a need for prayer for anything. And one of the lesbian girls was a Christian when she met her partner in a psychiatric ward. And when she started dating a partner, she took her partner to church, and the church kicked them out, said, unless you want to repent of being a lesbian and living with another lesbian, whatever you're practicing that sin, we can't allow you in your church. And she said, well, I'm not going to leave her. She's my girlfriend. And they said, well, you're not welcome in our church. So she come to our church, and, I loved her. And here she was, a practicing lesbian. And this day I went forward for prayer, and she was the one that came forward to pray for me. I didn't agree with her living in an active lifestyle of living with another woman, but I believed she was a Christian. And I watched her when worship was on. I watched her with her hands up, singing and praising Jesus. I had no doubt that she loved Jesus. So was I going to say, oh, no thanks, you're a lesbian, don't lay hands on me, don't pray for me? I was going to just accept that although her sexuality might be agreed with by my religious views, she certainly was a Christian, and her love for me would make a good prayer. So without even saying anything, I just said, thanks, I've got this problem, can you pray for me? And she prayed, and it was a beautiful prayer. It's time for John Lennon's Imagine to manifest on earth. Wouldn't it be great if there wasn't a threat of hell? Wouldn't it be great if we had no possessions? Wouldn't it be great if there was no thirst for money? Wouldn't it be great if there wasn't different religions? There was just a brotherhood of man serving God and serving each other in love. Wouldn't that be a great world? But there's people and Satan and Satan's servants that have got a vested interest in keeping us apart. Tucker Carlson is a Christian. Nick Fuentes is a Christian, Catholic Christian. Candace Owens is a Catholic Christian. Noticing there's a bit of a resurgence in the Christian faith. I notice a lot of people aren't going to Protestant churches, but they're going to Catholic churches. As a lot of Protestants are joining the Catholic Church, becoming Catholics. You're going to have to ask yourself, if the Catholics have got it so wrong, you Protestants, why are so many people leaving the Protestant church and going to be Catholics? These are questions. I've got many faults. I've shared with you a lot of them. You want to hear my teachings? Check me out on my YouTube channel and check out some of my videos and subscribe to my channel. If you want to know more in-depth teaching, you can find it in my books under Matthew Robert Payne on Amazon. I want to thank you sincerely for listening to the whole of this video, and I'd love to hear your feedback in a comment. God bless you.